Everyone called her the Russian Rapunzel, a girl whose fairy tale beauty and knee-length hair captivated every gaze. At just 20 years old, she wasn't only dominating the glittering runways of Paris and New York, she became the face of Nina Ricci and was declared by British Vogue as the future of fashion. But shining behind the perfect smile in those picture-perfect moments lay a hidden story. A story that ended in heartbreak, leaving countless questions unanswered. What really happened to Ruslana Korshunova? Was it the ruthless pressure of the fashion industry, a love gone wrong, or perhaps that mysterious self-improvement group promising transformation but leaving deep scars? Or something even darker? Today, we unravel the meteoric rise and sudden fall of Ruslana Korshunova, the story of a model the world thought had it all. But to understand the truth, we must go back to the very beginning of her extraordinary life. Ruslana Korshunova was a bright, dreamy girl from Almaty, Kazakhstan, a city far removed from the glossy pages of Vogue. Born on July 2, 1987, she was the youngest child in a family that believed in education and hard work as the path to success. But tragedy struck early. Her father, Sergei, a member of the Red Army, passed away when Ruslana was just 6 years old. From then on, the weight of the family fell on her mother, Valentina. Friends describe Valentina as strong, pragmatic, and fiercely devoted. She poured that unwavering strength into raising her children. And Ruslana, she seemed to carry her mother's quiet resilience as she grew. But no one could have imagined that this girl's life would take such a dramatic, heartbreaking turn, one that would shake the fashion world to its core. In school, Ruslana stood out, not just for her beauty, but for her intellect. Astonishingly, she spoke Kazakh, Russian, English, and German fluently. This rare talent hinted that her future wouldn't be confined to her homeland. Surprisingly, modeling wasn't her dream. She envisioned herself in a German university classroom. Ruslana was artistic, sensitive, and intensely curious about the world. In her free time, she played the piano and took voice lessons. And the most captivating detail, friends say she wrote poetry, poems that revealed both her romantic soul and her sharp and introspective mind. Within her was a dreamer, a scholar, and a radiant light that set her apart from the crowd. Modeling came into Ruslana's life by pure chance. In 2003, at just 15 years old, the head of her school's German club suggested she pose for a local magazine, All Asia. Ruslana agreed, perhaps thinking it would be a fun experience, a sweet memory, nothing more. But those photos changed her fate. Taken in Almaty's botanical garden, they showcased a unique beauty, waist-length chestnut hair, almond-shaped eyes, and delicate, fairy tale-like features that were impossible to forget. Photographer Boris Brule later said there was a spark in her eyes, a purity, and something more, a presence that no ordinary camera lens could hide. In that moment, an innocent schoolgirl named Ruslana Korshunova was slowly transforming into the future Russian Rapunzel.
Those photos were first published in an in-flight magazine. On a flight from Almaty to Moscow, model scout Tatiana Trednikova flipped through the pages and stopped at one image, Ruslana Korshunova. Tatiana had seen countless faces in her career, but this girl was different. Almost ethereal. In an instant, she knew this girl could be a star. Yet Valentina, Ruslana's mother, was hesitant. To her, modeling meant risk and uncertainty. She quoted an old proverb, "A bird in hand is worth two in the bush." Why abandon the certainty of education for an unpredictable dream? But Ruslana's heart had already made its choice. She pleaded with her mother to let her try, just once. Finally, Valentina agreed on one condition. She would accompany her daughter on her first trip. In 2004, Ruslana arrived in London and signed with Models 1. Debbie Jones, a senior booker, saw her photos and exclaimed, "She looked like she stepped out of a fairy tale." Those words became a shadow that followed Ruslana's short life. Her feline face, sparkling green eyes, and cascading golden hair made her irresistible to every camera. It was an impossible journey from an ordinary school in Kazakhstan to the elite echelons of the fashion world. But even fairy tales have their shadows, and those shadows were creeping into Ruslana's life. Not overnight, but slowly. As her stars shone brighter, an unseen darkness drew closer. By 2005, British Vogue declared her a face to get excited about. For any model, this was a dreamlike recognition. In just 2 years, her career seemed unstoppable. She walked for Christian Dior, Vera Wang, and Kenzo. She became the face of DKNY and Nina Ricci campaigns. A perfume ad cemented her in the public's imagination. In it, Ruslana was a fairy tale figure. Pale skin, vivid green eyes, flowing golden hair, holding a crystal apple. It didn't just sell a fragrance, it sold a dream of effortless beauty and timeless fantasy. Print media adored her as much as the runways. French Elle, Russian Vogue, her face was everywhere. And in 2006, a cover shoot for Vogue Italia's Broken Dolls left critics in awe. Looking back, those images seemed to carry a haunting prophecy. They weren't just fashion, they were a warning. Then came the nickname that made her both legendary and trapped, Russian Rapunzel. Her knee-length golden hair became her trademark. At first, it was enchanting, almost mythical. But in the ruthless game of fashion, what makes you unique can also cage you. Survival demands reinvention, and Ruslana's identity became tethered to one thing: purity. The moment she stepped outside that frame, the magic broke. The era matters too. The mid-2000s were obsessed with an ethereal beauty, impossibly thin bodies, porcelain skin, and an almost otherworldly delicacy. Casting directors sought this ethereal face, and agencies flocked to Eastern Europe. Ruslana wasn't just part of that wave, she was its pinnacle. But in fashion, glory comes with conditions. One season, you're the darling of designers. The next, you're a forgotten face. For Ruslana, the pace was brutal. London to Paris, Paris to New York, back to Moscow. Weeks bled into months. Former lovers later said she was always exhausted, always running, castings, fittings, shoots like an endless race.
From the outside, everything looked perfect. But her blog, it revealed an inner darkness, depression, a broken heart, and a creeping fear of losing control. In an industry where survival meant reinvention, Ruslana seemed to cling to something real, something tangible. Friends said she was different, not a typical model, not a party girl. She was sensitive, idealistic, and took rejection to heart. Before Paris, she didn't even wash her own hair. Her mother always did it. This small detail speaks volumes. Behind the Vogue covers and luxury campaigns was a young woman still tied to the comforts of home, learning to navigate the world alone, silently. By 2007, Ruslana's portfolio was enviable. Top designers, global campaigns, magazine covers most models only dreamed of. She sent money home, supported her family, and lived in Manhattan's financial district. But beneath the success, something was shifting. The fashion industry's demand for novelty meant that at just 20, she could feel obsolete. New faces were flooding in, and bookings that once seemed certain were fading. For someone whose identity was built on beauty, work, and control, this uncertainty was devastating. She needed something, anything, to restore her sense of purpose. Enter Rose of the World. At first, it seemed like a path to self-improvement, a way to perfect oneself and regain control. But the reality was darker. Critics and former members described it as near cult-like, an organization linked to emotional breakdown, stress, and even deaths. Journalist Peter Pomerantsev, who studied the group for years, said it preyed on the most vulnerable. And Ruslana, exhausted, heartbroken, navigating long travels and an uncertain career, was exactly that, vulnerable.
In 2007, she fell deeply in love with a wealthy Russian businessman. Friends described him as charismatic, handsome, and unattainable. For a time, Ruslana believed they would marry. She brought him home to meet her mother, but the relationship ended abruptly. Friends recalled, he didn't just break her heart, he shattered her sense of stability. Her blog posts grew darker, tales of love's untimely death and a crumbling castle of rosy dreams. One heartbreaking post read, "It feels like someone ripped out my heart and stomped on it." It was during this emotional collapse that Ruslana joined Rose of the World. It began with a 3-day training in Moscow, which became a daily routine. Each session cost over $300, promising self-mastery. But the reality was cruel. Members were told to confess their deepest pains in front of a crowd. Failure was their fault. No weakness was allowed. In one session, lights blazed, music blared, and the group chanted in unison to break down the person on stage. Ruslana returned from these sessions changed. Friends noticed an edge to her mood, anger, restlessness. She blamed herself for everything. A journalist noted, if a shoot went badly, she'd fall apart. If a relationship failed, she believed it was her fault. Yet she kept going back, convinced the process could fix her broken pieces. She even urged friends to join. When they refused, the pressure mounted. In this group, failure wasn't an option. For someone already wrestling with rejection, this was catastrophic.
Shadows of darkness and layers of mystery. Meanwhile, darker rumors emerged years later. Court documents released in 2024 revealed Ruslana's name on Jeffrey Epstein's flight log in June 2006, when she was just 18. She was on his private jet with his assistant, chef, and bodyguard. What happened after the plane landed remains unclear. There's no evidence of specific wrongdoing involving Ruslana, but the connection is unsettling, a reminder of the predatory forces in the industry she worked in. By early 2008, Ruslana was living in a sleek apartment in New York's financial district, thousands of miles from Almaty. But those closest to her knew the glossy life was a facade. Her career was slowing. A wave of new models, tanned, athletic, overtly sensual, was replacing her delicate, doll-like look. At just 18 or 19, Ruslana felt her time was running out. Isolation enveloped her. Her family was far away, her romantic life in ruins. The life coaches and training programs, which promised enlightenment and growth, were breaking her down instead. In her words, the most important thing is, I was alone. I had no one dear to me except my mother. Yet, Ruslana pressed on. To the outside world, she walked runways, booked shoots, and maintained appearances. 3 days before her 21st birthday, she completed a shoot for Neiman Marcus in New York. The next day, she was set to fly to Texas for another job. But on June 28, 2008, that day became shrouded in mystery. A quiet summer Saturday in the financial district. A sound from her 9th-floor balcony, a break in the silence. Police quickly ruled it a suicide. No signs of a struggle, no alcohol or drugs, no note. But the details unraveled the story. Ruslana was terrified of heights. Her ex-boyfriend said she wouldn't even stand near the balcony's railing. Most unsettling, her hair, the hair that made her Rapunzel, was cut short, unevenly. Inside the apartment, there was no chaos. The bed was made, books neatly stacked, a plane ticket to Texas ready. Everything seemed normal, yet everything was broken. The weeks before had shattered her. Her blog posts were dark, shattered with grief behind poetic words. It hurts like someone tore out a piece of me, ripped it out cruelly and stomped on it. Another post, I'm so lost. Will I ever find myself? The pressures of the industry, the death of love, the grip of Rose of the World were all breaking her.
Less than a year later, another model linked to the same program, Anastasia Drozdova, died in eerily similar circumstances. Officially, it was ruled a suicide, but her family and loved ones couldn't believe it. They knew Ruslana was someone who wanted to keep going, to build something new, yet the world stayed silent. Her death became headlines, shrouded in gossip's fog. But the true depth of her story, the unspoken pressures of the industry, the impossible standards, remains immortal in fashion's archives. Her fairy tale beauty, perfect and silent, was a dangerous illusion. Ruslana Korshunova, a name that never faded, yet lives on in our imaginations, a life caught between beauty, dreams, and the cruelty of an industry. We've learned that perfection is often just a mask, and behind every light and camera flash lies a human's unspoken battle. Today's story ends here, but the questions linger. Who was Ruslana truly, and will we ever fully understand the dark side of this industry? If this story moved you, share it, like it, and don't forget to subscribe. Stay with us as we uncover more tales of light and shadow. And remember, behind every face is a life, and behind every story, a real person.